The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the host and guests on this podcast are their own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of UCLA Athletics, UCLA Gymnastics, or the Bruin Gymnastics alumni community. The content of this podcast is strictly for informational purposes only and should not be considered professional advice.
If you say that you can explain how it feels, you're lying. It's so beyond belief. And I just remember thinking of all of the times when I had gotten hurt, all of the times when I thought I couldn't go on. These two guys were a major factor in me being able to do that.
Like Tim is saying, you can't really put it into words because it's a feeling. And the feeling I had was different than the feeling I imagined it would feel like. If you look back, all it was this gigantic grin on my face, this huge smile, and I guess you can equate that to happiness. It felt great, and it was a little bit of disbelief that this was actually happening because it was a dream for many, many, many years.
I was grateful. I'm a person of faith. I was grateful for God for giving me the opportunity to share this experience with such amazing people. I was grateful for all the guys on the team, but in particular, the guys that I live the dream with every day. That's Mitch and Tim.
Welcome to the Bruin Gymnastics edition of the Resilience to Brilliance podcast, where you'll be inspired by riveting behind-the-scenes stories of UCLA gymnastics legends. I'm your host, Kim Hamilton Anthony. Here we go. In keeping with our celebration of the 40th anniversary of the UCLA men's gymnastics team winning their first ever national championship title in 1984, I will finish out our Bruin Gymnastics Alumni Edition interviewing three men who are not just UCLA legends, but international gymnastics legends as well. Tim Daggett, Mitch Gaylord, and Peter Vidmar, who are also celebrating the 40th anniversary of winning the team gold medal in the 1984 Olympics. Tim Daggett also won 3 individual national titles at that famous NCAA championship in 1984, and his perfect 10 on high bar at the 84 Olympics clinched the first ever gold medal for the U.S. men's gymnastics team. And Tim also won a bronze medal on pommel horse. Tim is the founder of Daggett Gymnastics, and he's been a sports commentator for over 30 years. In addition to helping UCLA win the NCAA national team title in 84, Mitch Gaylord was also the NCAA all-around champion. In the 84 Olympics, he won a silver medal on vault and 2 bronze medals on rings and parallel bars. His prominence on that world stage led to a movie career, followed by his involvement in the finance and fitness industries. He is currently in the home building industry in Austin, Texas, and in 2023, he was inducted into the International Gymnastics Hall of Fame. And Peter Vidmar is a 5-time NCAA national champion, including winning 2 national all-around titles. In the 1984 Olympics, he scored a perfect 10 to win the gold medal on the pommel horse, and he won the silver medal in the all-around. Peter spent much of his post-gymnastics career on the corporate lecture circuit before retiring to run a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for 3 years in Melbourne, Australia. Recently, he's working in the banking industry. I had this incredible privilege of sitting down with these 3 legends to get a behind-the-scenes look at their storied experience from 1984. Let's listen. Tim, Mitch, Peter, welcome.
Hello, Kim.
Hello, Kim. Great to be on.
Great to be here, Kim.
Thank you so much. It was quite a bit of a chore getting the 3 of you together, but we managed it.
They were very difficult, weren't they?
You said they, the 2 of them.
The 2 of them, yes.
Too funny, too funny. Well, let me tell you, the reason I wanted to interview the 3 of you together is because, 1, I want to celebrate the rich history of UCLA men's gymnastics. And personally, I can't help but to believe that it was UCLA men's gymnastics team that played a significant role in drawing some of the women to the program. I remember coming to UCLA in 86. And I didn't know much about the women's team at all, but I did know the three of you, and I knew the great success that you were having. So thank you for being a part of me coming to UCLA. I appreciate that. So the second reason I wanted to have you on together is because we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of UCLA men's gymnastics team winning the NCAA national team title in 1984 and the 40th anniversary of the three of you winning the Olympic gold medal in 1984. So welcome and thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When was the last time the three of you were interviewed together?
I don't think all three of us. I think at different times I've done something with Pete or I've done something with Mitch, but it's been quite a while.
It's been a while. Do you think it's been 40 years?
Not quite 40.
Not quite 40.
Yeah.
It was exciting to hear that we'd be on together. So this is kind of nice.
Well, good. First of all, I'd like to ask you about your relationship with each other. Did you know each other before you went to UCLA?
Pete should start that one.
Well, Mitch and I knew each other
Yeah.
because we both grew up in Southern California. And my very first gymnastics meet of my life was a meet, I think, in the San Fernando Valley. And me and myself and Bob Kuriyama, who was my teammate at the Culver City Gymnastics Club, went to compete in our first meet. I only did two events. I did floor and vault. I was second on floor, third on vault. Bob was third on floor, second on vault. And there was this little kid that won every single event and the all-around. His name was Mitch Gaylord.
Oh, goodness.
And I just thought, dang, that guy's good. And that was my first real connection to Mitch. I didn't know him. I don't even know if I even talked to you, Mitch, but
I don't think so.
saw you there. And then maybe we competed one or two more times as junior gymnasts. And then we ended up kind of meeting at UCLA together as freshmen in 1979. And Tim came a year later. So that was the connection with Mitch. And Mitch, you can expound on that. And Tim, you can mention why the heck did you come out to California from Massachusetts?
Right. All the way out there.
Yeah. Well, I remember those early days competing with Pete, and he likes to bring up that competition where I won everything. But the very next time we competed, he won everything. And that's when I realized talent alone doesn't make it in this sport. You got to work your butt off. And Pete was an inspiration from that point forward to me all the way until we ended up at UCLA, where he was already on the senior national team at that point, going to the world championships. And it was a huge factor in my decision to go to UCLA was because Pete was there. I wanted to be a part of that and part of that whole program. So it was very interesting the way Pete and I specifically went neck and neck for so many years after that was fun, challenging, motivating, and the key to the success, I think, of all of us. And then Tim coming in, my goodness, we had a powerhouse there, and it was fun just feeding off each other's energy in the gym each day, day in, day out.
Yeah, for me, it's like, as they both mentioned, they're much older than I am. I came the year after, and really, it's the exact same reason. I remember, watching Peter qualify for that first world team and thinking, he's 1 year older than me and he's so much better. And I watched videos of Mitch and I'm like, this guy is unbelievable. And I had thought that they were the best guys in the country. And maybe if they weren't exactly at that point, I thought they would be. And I just said, I got to figure out what the heck they do, because I'm not even in their league at this point in time. And so I decided UCLA, and it was one of the most important decisions of my life, and I'll cherish it forever.
That's pretty cool that the three of you saw each other and just motivated each other from afar and kind of close when you think about Peter and Mitch. So when you got to UCLA, what was the environment like? What was the culture as you trained?
The Wild West comes to mind.
Okay.
Well, I was very calm. These guys, very explosive in the gym. Always. No, I'm joking.
I hope so.
It was a combination of things, I think. I mean, we were in the old men's gym before the gym that you saw at the Wooden Center, and it was not state of the art by any means. But it's kind of cool. It's like you watch the old, Rocky movies or whatever, where they're training, down in whatever that environment you want to call it. It wasn't high tech. It didn't have the best equipment. It was smelly. It was loud. Yeah. It was just, but it didn't matter.
It was a dungeon on the second floor of the men's gym facility.
Oh, goodness.
It really was.
With a lot of pigeons.
Yes.
Pigeons.
We had a lot of birds flying in there. Sometimes you'd tumble and your hand would go right across. It was bad. That was the gym.
Wait, the birds were in the gym and there's like bird poop on the mat?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, a lot. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. What a recruiting source.
And what's interesting is that we had the basic outlay of the gym there was 3 basketball courts. There was a curtain that separated 2 of them from one of them. And one of them was the permanent site of the gymnastics facility. You had the girls' equipment. You had 1 set of bars. You had about 3 beams. You had the vault runway that we shared. And then you had the floor. And then you had the men's equipment, the high bar, the pommel horse, the parallel bars, and the rings. That was our luxurious, gym with the paint peeling off the walls. And, and here we are in this environment. And on the other side of the curtain was where the men's volleyball team played. And so we were staring at the girls, and the girls were staring at the volleyball players. Because they were these, tall, good-looking guys, hitting volleyball. And, we were the short guys in the gym that were pasty white living in the gym all day. So, yeah, it was an interesting environment. I mean.
Yes, interesting to say the least. Yeah. So your training regimen, was there anything special that you did at UCLA that maybe you hadn't done before that helped prepare you for that national championship title?
I can personally say that when I went there and coached Sherlock and Makoto Sakamoto, basically I learned that as a human, you can do way more than you ever thought possible. And I remember at one point early on, we used to call him Mr. Makoto Sakamoto. He started doing handstand push-ups in the gym, kind of at the end of workout to see how many he could do. And, literally when he's first starting, he's doing like 5 in my freshman year. And he would do this for a long time in his life. And I think he actually at one point had the Guinness Book of World Records for handstand push-ups. I mean, some ungodly number that
goodness.
Over 100, I think, Pete.
It was 163 and he was age 60. He was age 54 when he did it.
My goodness.
That's incredible.
That is really incredible.
He started, though, like I said, in my freshman year. He might have been doing it with Pete and Mitch also. I wasn't there. But he would do these things and he'd be struggling like crazy, and it's like he's done 5 and 2 months later he's almost made 8. And then, 2 months later after that, he's doing 11 and he's like fighting and his legs and he'd come down and he'd always, the way he coached, he kind of did it a little subliminal. He'd always say, the mind always gives up before the body, and he'd walk by you, it's like the mind always gives up before the body, meaning you could always do more. And, I remember learning that lesson, through actually seeing somebody do that because, and I know it's true for these guys as well. If you were to look at the magnitude of work that went into it, I don't think any of us, early on would have said, oh yeah, we could do that.
I learned directly from Pete, believe it or not. I mean, that came out wrong. Of course, I learned from the guy, but he was, like I said, already on the senior team level internationally. And so to be able to see how he trained in person was a gigantic learning lesson for me. I'd never trained like that before. Hence, I never was at those levels at that time. So it was a major, like what Tim's saying, you can do way more than you think you can. And that was evident every single day in the gym. No matter how tired you were, you would go in there and find out you were capable of more than you thought you were. And that became a real motivating factor, just to keep pushing and pushing and pushing to see how much I could do during the workouts, which I had never done in the past, work through pain, work through fatigue, and found out that it was very mental. I had no idea that dynamic, that your mind was so much more powerful than your physical cues were giving you. You could override them pretty easily. Not in a stupid way. We had some stuff happen in that gym that was kind of scary. Our teammate, Mark Casa, actually had a tragic, he broke his neck. And I think we all majorly learned from that as well about the risks of being too overly competitive and doing things when you were a little bit too tired.
I think that, and I think I had a little bit of help in that Mako Sakamoto coached me from my first day of gymnastics. So what he taught, I think he taught us all the value of repetition. We did a lot of routines. When we got ready for competition, it was just a numbers game. And it's the last routine on each event, right? You know, the last routine on the floor, the last routine on the high bar, that's the real test for you to try to be up. And I think that helped. What I learned from Mitch and Tim was they had everything that I lacked. Tim had incredible power, and he was always aggressive in the way he approached his performing. It was all out. And Mitch was, I think Mitch is probably the most creative gymnast this country's ever seen in terms of developing and skills and being innovative. You've got, we all know what the Gaylord flip is, but there's the Gaylord 1, the Gaylord 2. There's other skills he did in practice that no one ever really saw that he was working on all the time. And that just expanded my mind about what could be done. And I was always afraid to take those chances and take those. I was kind of conservative. And so I think we all played off of each other. At least that's what I observed in the gym. It was always electric in the gym. There was never a time that all three of us or anybody else were all tired and all lazy on a certain day. Someone was going on all cylinders that day. And that raised the level of intensity for everybody else in the gym. You know, I think at one point of the 18 members of the national team, 7 of us trained in that gym at UCLA. So over a third of the national team was in that one gym.
That's amazing.
So dynamic. I mean, and that's what I miss more than anything is just that relationship and being in the gym and training with guys. It's not the competition.
Now, one of you mentioned the mental aspect. What are some things that you did to mentally prepare yourself to compete at the highest level and to excel?
Well, it's basically one of the first things I learned was taught by the coaches and these guys here. It's just you practice like you're competing, like you envision yourself actually, at the Olympic Games, with the ability to, do a routine that can clinch a gold medal. And you do that in training, to try to get yourself, you try to imagine what it smells like, what the airflow is. You envision Dmitry Bilazerchev walking by you or Yuri Korolev or somebody else. And you try to put yourself in that situation. And then when you are in that situation, you do the exact opposite. You say, no, I'm not here. I'm not at the Olympic Games. It's another workout. And there's Pete and there's Mitch and there's Mark and Chris. And, it's just another day. I've done it a million times and I can do it. I can do it again. So it for me, that was really important. I don't know about you guys. I think you probably, I know Pete, you did because we used to play kind of a game like that all the time. So
what was that game?
We'd be on the high bar and I'd look at Tim and say, hey, Tim, let's just imagine it's the Olympics. It's the men's team finals. We're on the last event of the night.
4 hours into practice. 4 hours into practice. End of the week, exhausted.
Yeah, you're exhausted. You want to go home. You tore 3 more blisters in your hand. Your shoulder hurts and gymnastics isn't fun anymore. And then I'd say, let's just imagine we're here at the games and the gold medal's on the line and we're neck and neck with the Chinese and we have to hit our routines perfectly to win. Knowing that's never going to happen. And here we were at the Olympics under those exact circumstances. And that's when you can you have to recall the training to be able to do that. Tim and Mitch mentioned some other names in the gym. It's not just us three in that gym. And there was the Caso brothers, Mark and Chris Caso. There were
Robbie Campbell.
Carlos Spivey.
Yes.
Other gym specialists, Joe Hopfield on the high bar. Guys that we have these great memories with all of these athletes. They were all hardworking. It wasn't just us. I mean, everybody worked hard in that gym. And I'd like to be a fly on the wall of the workouts of the guys today, because I look at the level of performance of male gymnasts today and I think, wow, I don't know if I could ever rise to that. It's amazing what our gymnasts are doing now. So anyways, I just love being in the gym with these guys.
I think all of us get asked that question numerous times. Do you miss being in the sport? Do you miss competing? And like you said, Pete, it's not about the competition, even though those were fun moments, incredible moments, life-changing moments. But the day in, day out is where it was at, is to wake up each and every day with those kinds of goals, focus, vision of where you want to go, working at it each and every day. And the camaraderie of the teammates in that gym was, I think, exceptional. I can't imagine being anywhere else and getting to the levels that I personally got to without these guys. It just wouldn't have happened. But one of the things you talked mentally, I wanted to say one thing as these guys were talking. I learned the power of focus, and I learned how to block out everything around me, because that was an up and down ladder for me. Like sometimes I was able to do it, and then other times in competition, I would let the magnitude of the event get to me and I would choke. And I would always be so upset that happened and wonder how it happened. And then in the gym, your comfort zone where you're in, day out, it's not hard to tune everything out. You're just in your comfort zone, like I'm saying. But get into a competition, especially when you travel internationally in a foreign country on a different time zone, and it's completely foreign to you, different languages, the whole environment feels very strange. But if you can get into that tunnel vision, that zone, the flow that people talk about, you can tune all that stuff out, and it's just you on the apparatus doing your thing that you've done hundreds of times in the gym, and you duplicate that.
Is there a secret to getting in the flow? Is there something specific that you did, or was it just the matter of will? Hey, I am going to block out.
Yeah, let these guys talk on that, but it's just awareness of it, knowing that you need to do it. You got to do it, and you have to be aware that you need to do it.
Go ahead, Pete.
I don't know. I mean, I think first and foremost, you have to love what you do. I love gymnastics. I love the whole sensation of going upside down and flipping. That's what, as a child, attracted me to the sport, was that being able to will yourself to doing all these incredible things. And so with that love then comes that the dreaming, right? Of, well, what if someday? I would say that my coach was really good. He never said if, he only said when. By the way, when you make your first national team, this is what you'll experience. By the way, when you make an Olympic team, the opening ceremonies are going to be awesome. By the way, you'll know, I mean, when, it was never if.
I like that.
I thought, wow, he has expectations for me. And I think that from that, I learned to have expectations then for myself. And to say, well, maybe he's really being truthful. Maybe I actually can do this. And so that dream becomes the goal, and then the work, the mental and physical work, pushes that goal into something that can become reality. It's not an easy process. We can simplify it with a few sentences here on a podcast. It's a lifetime effort and work. And I lived in the gym with these guys and saw that there were so many days that it was really hard. As you know, I mean, you've been through this. You've gone through this yourself and with your teammates. It's just, there's days that it's not fun. And that's when I think you learn the most about yourself. You know, when you've conquered something that you didn't think you could, when you actually made it through a workout that you didn't think you could complete, and you walk away at the end of the day going, man, I'm so glad I didn't give up in the middle of the day. I'm so glad I stuck with it. So,
yeah.
For
me, I echo everything that they've said. I found out relatively early on that, you know, because especially nowadays, if you talk to the youth or different folks, or you read stuff, it's struggle is like a bad word. And for me, I learned that struggling although difficult in the moment, always produced the best results for me. And so I learned to kind of embrace that and always have that as my goal, because, you could do another routine, you could do another flip, another twist, but the one thing that you could always do more of was struggle deeper and more intensely. And so I learned to kind of really love that term and love that feeling, and so at the end, like we say, at the end of a workout where you're just like, you can't even lift your arms anymore. And it's like, it was such a struggle. But then, right after that, you see this big benefit. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Embrace the struggle. I like that.
Yes. Yeah.
I like it. Well, Peter, during the 1984 Nationals, had you graduated already?
I had. In fact, when you introduced us as members of the 1984 NCAA championship teams, that's only two of them. I wasn't. I was the graduate assistant coach. I was still training for the games. So we tried to win an NCAA title with me and the team. They needed to get me off the team to win that title finally. When Mitch and Tim did it.
They needed you in that coaching spot. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know about that. But so I was not a member of that team. But I graduated in 83. And, of course, I'm going to stay in the same environment that I'd been nourished in my whole career. So I just stayed training with these guys. And
you had won 2 national titles, all-around titles, your senior and junior year?
I won. Yeah, I did. And Mitch had won some national titles. And I think what's neat about this is that if you look at our team, the 1984 team, every member of the team at some point in their career was the USA all-around national champion. Mitch won a few times. I won a couple. Tim won. Jim Hartling had won. Scotty Johnson ended up winning after the Olympics. But we were all able to say that we were all-around champions. So that was kind of a neat thing. And we were a very dynamic. Outside of us three, the other three in the team, we'd been together for quite a while leading up to the Olympics. So yes, I graduated and just kept on training. I would not have near the success that I had without being in the gym with Mitch and Tim. I mean, it's such a privilege. And I can't, as Mitch said, I can't imagine having gone anywhere else, being in any other environment. I feel like I just feel blessed that I had this chance to be with all of them. We can get together, as you heard before we went on the air. The little banter that we have that's lingered since we were in our 20s. It's great.
For sure. It must have been an amazing environment. Now, I would like to go to that NCAA championship and just talk about what that was like for you. Did you go in expecting to win as a team? What are some of the things that played out that maybe the public doesn't know about, but what was actually going on behind the scenes?
It was in Poly. So the NCAAs in 84 are in Poly Pavilion. And so we were comfortable with that. But it also was obviously just a few months later going to be where the Olympic Games was going to happen. And all three of us, we were going to be on that team unless something remarkably wrong occurred. Because we had, for the last number of years, always been on the major teams. And so it just was, I don't know exactly what the overriding thing is. Obviously it was exciting, to try to win an NCAA title. I thought we were going to win, I thought we would do it handily. But I also wanted to use it as a preparation to feel exactly what I'm going to feel come, July of 1984. And so, yeah, a lot of different emotions for me.
Yeah, that's. I felt the same way, Tim. Is it was kind of a preview of what was to come at the Olympics, because we were already at those levels and we knew that was the goal and that's where we were going. I do remember specifically wanting to make a very powerful message of we are better than Nebraska. Because it had never happened prior to that. And you may wonder why Pete was already graduated and I wasn't. We went in the same year as freshmen, but I had redshirted a year because I had left UCLA for a while to train with Kurt. And then I came back and there was a question of whether I was going to be able to compete anymore in college just because of a bunch of BS back in those days with amateur versus professional stuff. It's a whole other story that we don't need to go into. But the fact that I was there, one more chance, here we are, we can do this and we're going to do it. And we ended up not only winning the team gold at the NCAAs, but we took first, second, and third in the all around. And that was the statement I think we were looking for is we dominated and it felt awesome. It felt great. And then of course we put that aside and became best buddies with our Nebraska guys because they were on the Olympic team with us.
Exactly.
2 of them.
Yes. 2 of them. Correct. Yeah.
Yep.
So I want to go back to Mitch leaving his scholarship to go train.
We don't need to go into that.
No, we won't go into the details of it, but I want to know what Peter and Tim were thinking when you left.
Good riddance.
Well, it's interesting. We were always sure.
I was very sad.
Yeah, no. When you lose that dynamic, but at the same time, when Mitch came back, you could see a transformation. I mean, the work that Kurt Thomas did with Mitch was outstanding. Mitch's level of, I think Mitch, I would say it looked like you found yourself in terms of the kind of gymnastics that you wanted to display to the world. That's how I felt when you came back. It was Mitch came back as his own performer. He wasn't fitting into a formula. And I think that speaks to Mitch's personality. He's an innovative, creative gymnast. He needs to express himself. And he did in his own way. And the skills he performed, they've stood the test of time over the years. That right there says it all. So.
Good stuff.
Very insightful, Mr. Vidmar.
I'm not trying to put thoughts into. I'm just saying that's the impression I got from observing Mitch when he came back.
Yeah. It was my.
You definitely believed in yourself to a much higher level, and you were always capable of being the best guy, but I think deep down that experience just taught you that you're one of the best gymnasts in the world and you can compete with anyone. There's no question. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. The same thing Pete was talking about when Maka would tell him a presumptive, yes, you're going to be there. I got that through Kurt that yes, you're going to be number one. You have the talent. You just need the belief in yourself. I lacked that back in those days. And I was in an environment where I personally felt like I wasn't flourishing because they were trying to mold me into something that I wasn't. And it's no fault of the coach, Mako. He didn't know me as a 12-year-old. And so when I came on the scene, like Pete, when I came on the scene at 18, I wanted to do certain things and there was things he didn't want me to do. And we butted heads a lot. And it wasn't for any other reason than we just butted heads, At the time I was really angry. Like this coach doesn't believe in me and he's trying to keep me down and all these other thoughts that probably weren't even true. But I just knew I had to leave for a while. And I ended up training with Kurt and Kurt just immediately saw where I wanted to go and wanted to encourage me to get there in this particular way. And it just worked. And when I came back, I was like, these guys are saying a different guy. And I wanted to share that with them. I'm back. Let's do this together. And
I love it.
It's just amazing experience.
That's exciting. Now, was it related to the level of skills that you were doing? Because, I'm thinking about the Gaylord 1, 2. You were throwing some skills way back when.
Yeah, that was never the issue with me. I could always do fancy tricks and the scary stuff and the risky stuff. It was the fundamentals and the basics and the work ethic, like I was saying earlier, and getting that all down. The gym I grew up in, my coach was Dan Conley, and that's the environment that we were at there too, which was just do the hardest skills you possibly can do and it was fun. I had a major love of the sport, but you can't just get to the top with that alone. You have to have the fundamentals and the discipline to go along with it. And I think that's what the training with Kurt basically put it all together, put all the pieces together.
Nice. Oh, I'm so glad you shared that. So let's move from the national championship title to the Olympics. After compulsories, Mitch, you scored a 10, by the way. That helped the team boost itself ahead of China. So you're going into optionals. Are you going in thinking we are going to walk away with a gold medal?
Can I interject at this point?
Sure.
So Mitch at parallel bars in compulsories.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, he was great, always wonderful routine. He goes up, does this routine. I'm watching him. I think I had already gone, and he lands, sticks it, kind of comes over to me, and he goes, "Oh God, that was terrible. That sucked. I was so off here, and I was low here, and I didn't feel right." And it's like, because it was practiced so many times, the only people that knew that it wasn't as perfect as it could be was Mitch Gaylord and some of the guys that trained with him. But I was like, "Oh, it's going to be fine. Mitch, I'm telling you, it's going to be fine." And then all of a sudden there's this roar of the crowd, and, Mitch gets a 10. So it's, I just love that story. And I thought I would not get it in if I didn't say that. So sorry I interrupted.
No, you're good. I love that you told that, Mitch. And it was a little bit indicative of maybe you not believing in yourself as much as you learned to do after you worked with Kurt. And maybe it kind of came back a little bit, but that's so funny. I'm glad you shared that, Tim.
Yeah. Do you remember that, Mitch?
I don't, believe it or not, but as you're saying it, no, it's funny because all I remember is the 10.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it in disbelief because we had never done it before. And I remember running up there and, whatever, the crowd was going berserk. And when I came back, all the hugs and everything. And it was just a momentum builder for all of us. It's like, we're there, man. We can do this. That's how it felt to me. We can really beat these guys. And amazing.
I think that the moment when I thought, hey, this really could happen was I think we felt that we had the talent to be as good as or better than the Chinese. When we saw them in the workout, at least for me, watching their podium training and all that, I thought, they're not unbeatable. We can do this, guys. And they had won the world championships just 6 months earlier. And so I thought when the competition began, we were on floor. China was on pommel horse. And I remember glancing over before my routine, and I saw Li Xiaoping, who was the reigning world champion, on the pommel horse. I saw him fall off. And I turned, I don't know if I looked at Tim or Mitch or somebody. I said, "Hey, did you see that? Xiaoping just fell off horse. Those guys are nervous too, man. We can do this." It was almost, I feel terrible saying that because I love Li Xiaoping. He lives in Orange County, California. He's got a great club. Yeah. But I mean, that you saw that and thought, wait a second, they're not perfect. We're not perfect, but we can do this. And that was kind of, in a way, that kind of calms you down to say, hey, you know what? We're all in the same boat. Go out there and just do your job. And we did our jobs.
So what was it like for you to stand on that podium as a team, beating the world champions, China?
I'll tell you what, because it's 40 years for me and for these two gentlemen right here. I think if you say you can, if you say that you can explain how it feels, you're lying, because it's so beyond belief. And, I remember personally being on the stand, when they're playing the national anthem. And I just remember thinking of all of the times when I had gotten hurt, or all of the times when I thought I couldn't go on, and I had just kept on going. And these two guys were a major factor in me being able to do that. I just fed off of them so much. And I remember just being so proud that we never gave up. And so that was it for me. So
I just remember, like Tim is saying, you can't really put it into words because it's a feeling. And the feeling I had was different than the feeling I imagined it would feel like. So that was very interesting to me because if you ask any of my family members, I'm a sensitive guy. I get emotional once in a while. And I thought, man, this could be that double-edged sword. If I do win, or if we do win and I'm up on a victory stand, I'm just going to lose it. I'm going to start crying in front of the world, and that's going to be embarrassing. And if you look back, all it was this gigantic grin on my face, this huge smile. And I guess you can equate that to happiness. It felt great. And it was a little bit of disbelief that this was actually happening because it was a dream for many, many, many years. And the dream's a reality now. And to echo what Tim said, and I'm sure Pete will say the same darn thing, the fact that we were all up there together meant everything because we had gone through it together. And here we are. And we're sharing this experience. And here, 40 years later, I'll get choked up just thinking about it. So now I can show emotion about it. But back then, I guess I was the robot athlete. But overwhelming, elated, just unreal.
Yeah, I'm weaker than these guys. I think I actually cried up there, but
no, Pete was kind of hyperventilating there for a little bit. I kept tapping him, saying, "You're all right. Come on, Pete. You got it."
Yeah, I was hyperventilating. For me, I think a lot of it was what Tim and Mitch expressed, but it's gratitude for me. I was grateful. I'm a person of faith. I was grateful for God for giving me the opportunity to share this experience with such amazing people. I was grateful for all the guys in the team, but in particular, the guys that I live the dream with every day. That's Mitch and Tim. And, and it wasn't always easy for us. I mean, we were like the top 3 gymnasts in the country all around. And so while we're competing with each other, we're also competing against each other. Mm-hmm. And you have to push aside those little things if you really want to be a team. And we did. And I think that the fact that the friendship, whenever we see each other, is so strong, I think even sometimes stronger than it was back then, because we lived this dream together and we have the shared memory of this experience. I'm just grateful to know them. I'm grateful that they are examples to me and examples to my children of the kind of persons that they are. There's something to be said about the caliber of people that I've been able to keep company with. And I'm just grateful for that.
That's really special.
The feeling is mutual.
Yes. Ditto.
Well, each of you have such amazing personal stories as well. We didn't get into the gold medals that you won individually and the silver medals and the bronze medals. And I'm not going to put you on the spot right now. One of these days, I would love to interview each of you individually to dig deeper into your stories. But I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules to be on the podcast. I am beyond excited that you're here. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inspiring many, many people through your work, Kim.
Oh, thank
Absolutely.
you,
Peter. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
As the famous speaker Les Brown says, keep on keeping on.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Love you, brothers.
Love you too,
guys.
man.
Oh my goodness. That was a lot of fun. There are so many things I can take away from my conversation with Tim Daggett, Mitch Gaylord, and Peter Vidmar. The wisdom and insight they shared, it can be applied to just about any aspect of life. I thought it was interesting learning about how they demonstrated this inner drive, this positive attitude, and a disciplined mindset that they needed to win. But what caught my attention even more than that was just how much they fed off each other and learned from each other. One was positively impacting the other, and perhaps that person didn't even know it. It may not have been something they said or intentionally tried to teach each other, but they impacted each other's lives and careers by simply operating in their brilliance, by being who they were designed to be. They each had something unique and special that they brought to the team, and they played off each other's strengths, and they made each other better. Did you notice how eager they were to highlight each other's strengths? They didn't make it all about themselves. It was all about recognizing the strength in each other and in their other teammates who weren't on this interview, but who played a very significant role. If you think about it, what they just demonstrated for us was resilient leadership. Doing the hard work, getting those reps in, extracting and expecting the very best from yourself, and at the same time, recognizing and encouraging and celebrating and providing space for others to be their authentic selves. How can you practice this type of resilient leadership, whether it's in the gym, in your home, or in your community? If you look around, I'm sure there is likely someone out there who is just waiting for someone to see them for who they truly are. What would happen if you validated them, if you supported them, and maybe even team up with them so that you both can win together? It's definitely something worth considering. Thanks for listening to this final episode of the Bruin Gymnastics Alumni Edition of the Resilience to Brilliance podcast. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please follow us or subscribe wherever you find your podcast. That way you won't miss what's coming up in Season 2. If you want to find out more about Tim Daggett, Mitch Gaylord, and Peter Vidmar, check out our show notes on inbrilliancemode.com/podcast. And to connect with Bruin Gymnastics alumni on Instagram, follow us at UCLA Gym Alumni. Any use of this podcast without the express written consent of Brilliance Mode LLC is prohibited.